Hello and welcome to the Performer's Guide. My name is Kristen Railing and today is day 3 of Get Your Act Together. So today we're going to be focusing on our no-no list. The no-no list is going to be the second half of the habit tracking. If you haven't watched the habit tracking video, it'll be helpful to watch that video. It's day 2 video before this one, so that you can understand and find the habit tracker and know about where the no-no list is and how to track it. The no-no list is the opposite of a habit. So the habit is something we want to incorporate into our routine. No list is something we want to restrict. And we're going to go over this more in our start, stop, more or less. But to start off the program, I gave you 8 examples of some things that I personally monitor and try to limit in my everyday life. So the 8 categories are, I guess there's 9. I forgot I added one. No cigarettes, no alcohol, no drugs, no fast food, no binge watching television, no doom scrolling on social media, no video games, no negative talking, and no gambling. So what we want to do is we're going to do the same thing that we do with our habits. Every day we give ourselves a point for a habit that we do, but what we want to do is give ourselves a point for each one of these that we don't do in the day. Some reasons that I like to incorporate the no list on top of just doing a habit tracker is that this is going to give you an additional layer of health. We're working on all these healthy habits. It's also good to start pulling back some healthy habits. Speaking of healthy habits, make sure you drink your water during this video. So, first one is no cigarettes. And this also includes no vaporizers. This is just really kind of a no-brainer for me. I mean, honestly, my mom died of lung cancer and it was brutal to watch, and I would not wish that upon my worst enemy. And I just am very passionate about cigarette smoking. I don't know if I've shared this, but I actually used to be a cigarette smoker. I smoked almost a pack a day for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And it's gross. It smells bad. It like makes my teeth gross. It made my breath bad. I was always coughing up weird stuff. It's gross. And when I cut it out, I noticed a vast improvement on my health and my ability to perform. Clients do not want a stinky, smelly, cigarette smoking performer at their event. Just let's be real. I've seen party clowns, kid party clown in costume smoking a cigarette before the gig, and I was just like, that's not good. That's not going to work. And I think vaporizers are just as bad. I'm going to be honest. I think I see a lot of people celebrating that they've quit smoking, but they started vaporizing, and studies show that it's not healthier. It's in fact worse for you. And it also doesn't nip the addiction in the bud. It's just transferring it from one to another. And so I welcome you during this program to we're going to go over this more in another module, but start to look at these habit loops. If you're a cigarette smoker, what's triggering it? For me, it would often be boredom, stress, just routine. I was noticing that towards the end, I didn't even like it or want to do it. I was just doing it because I wanted something to do with my hands as well. So we're gonna cut out smoking, okay? It also let's see, did I say all the things? Oh, premature aging, decreased fertility, and addiction are the other symptoms of cigarette smoking. So we're going to cut that out. Some tips for quitting. Setting a date, it helped me. Just being like, okay, at the end of this pack of cigarettes, I'm not going to buy a new one, and that's it. Or maybe you're like, on Friday, I'm going to do it. Or maybe you're just like, right now, I'm quitting. But pick a moment and just start there. Okay? We're going to set a SMART goal, right? Next is get support. I'm here to support you. I have helped several friends quit smoking. I was helped in my journey to quit smoking. And it helps to not only get support of people just encouraging you, but also people who don't smoke. Spending time, especially during that sort of crucial quitting time. I didn't go to any bars. I didn't go to any parties. I really changed my whole routine and habit for at least, I don't know, a month or two, so that I could get to a point where I could even be in a room with somebody who was smoking and it didn't affect me. And in fact, it started grossing me out. And now it does. If I even smell a cigarette, I'm like, I can't even believe I did that to myself. Identify the triggers. We are going to identify the triggers. I have a whole worksheet on it. And then once we identify the triggers, we're going to find new healthy ways to cope with the trigger. And for me, I don't know if it's like much healthier, but I switched to just smoking weed. I always was a weed smoker, and so I just cut out cigarette smoking, and instead I would smoke a joint. Because I just can't smoke 20 joints in a day in the way I was smoking 20 cigarettes. If I smoke 2 joints in a day, I'm very stoned. So for me, that was helpful, but also I recognize that that's not totally nipping the addiction in the bud. But in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna, might as well be that instead of cigarettes. Consider replacement. So that was my replacement. You could consider something else that might be slightly healthier replacement for you. Some examples could be like chewing gum. They have nicotine gum, but I feel like that sort of defeats the purpose. It's just getting your mouth moving. Also things to do with your hands, getting your hands moving can help quit smoking. And then be patient. I definitely, it took me a few tries, I will say, but then once I had the dedication and was just like, no, I'm done with this. I was done with it. And this isn't a recommendation necessarily, but this is what did actually help me. Was microdosing. I microdosed for 3 weeks with the intention and meditation of, I'm going to quit smoking. I recognize that is not suitable for everybody. But I have heard of other people who have used that process, be it either mushrooms, acid, DMT, something along the lines where you're doing just a minimal amount for an extended period of time, helps to just change your body's physiological desire to even want to do that, because you just sort of have a different connection with the universe and your role with it. All right. Next, we got alcohol. So this is just a huge one. I think that society is alcohol based. A lot of our social interactions are based around alcohol, and being hungover is really difficult as a performer. Also, it can be very tempting to drink while we're on a gig. And I have seen performers do this where they just take it a little bit too far, like sometimes clients offer alcohol and it is appropriate to have some. Other times it is inappropriate to imbibe during an event or over imbibe, right? And so I recognize that this is a common struggle for people and performers because we get such access to it. Like when I was on the cruise ship for a year, beers were $1. 25 cents, and hard alcohol was $1. That's very inexpensive, but you could never be over 0.08. And so it's a way of, you have to check in with yourself and be like, can I manage and mitigate and control myself when the offering is just right there, or when you have an open bar, or when you go to a gig and there's an open bar. Got to check yourself in those moments and be like, okay, no, I can wait until after I'm done with the performance, or when I get home, or okay, I can just have one. But I've definitely seen performers go too far, get too drunk, lose clients, lose gigs, lose agents because they're stealing alcohol from the gig or drinking too much. You're going to have higher risk of accidents as a performer as well. I always kind of laugh. I'm like, there's certain performances that do well with having a drink before, like dancing, burlesque, something where you might want to loosen up your body just a little. But if we're talking like still walking, aerials, even juggling, acrobatics, anything where you need extreme coordination and balance, you can't be drinking before gigs. It's going to throw off the whole equilibrium, and it's just not going to be good. Also, you're going to get liver damage. I hate to be a downer again, but my dad died of liver disease. He had liver cancer, and also horrible. Please take care of yourself. And I know that this is, in my opinion, an even bigger issue than cigarettes. I feel like a lot more people are on board with quitting cigarettes, but so many people I know have alcohol struggles. And so, again, find support, find friends that aren't drinking and using that as their main motive for friendships. We're just going to try to nip that one in the bud, okay? So the next one is no drug use. So this can be whatever it means for you. Like for me, I smoke weed, but I put that into medication territory. I don't consider that a drug. If we're really want to get nitpicky, anything could be a drug that alters our perception, right? So coffee could be a drug. We can pick and choose, right? Our battles. I'm talking about soul deadening, soul crushing drugs that you are struggling with, that literally affect your day to day, that affect your relationships, that are affecting, we're going to start to nip those out of the bud. Again, when we're performers and we're performing at festivals, there's going to be ketamine, there's going to be hard drugs, there's going to be things that can seriously injure us because they could be laced with something. They just could have a higher dose than what we're normally used to. It definitely worries me when I go to events and I'm performing at events to see some people with how much and how recklessly and carelessly they imbibe in drugs. And I used to be like that when I was in my early 20s. Like, nothing could take me down. I almost got taken down a few times, and I'm very grateful to not have. And I just spend my time not doing those as much as I can. So you're going to figure out which ones you specifically are struggling with and would like to cut out, and we're going to cut those out. Then we've got no eating fast food. And this one gets asked a lot, like, oh, isn't it no fast food? Like, not eating out at all? But it's the difference between, like, kind of like guilt eating a bunch of McDonald's food after a gig and just feeling like, ugh, and going out to a Mexican fast food that's got yummy, that makes a good burrito, and you feel good and healthy, and you're feeling great about that choice. Again, it's your own personal preferences, right? And for me, it's a vibe. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I'm in the mood for a piece of pie or some candy. And then sometimes I'm like a fat, grubby, like bags of fast food and gross food around me because I've just like sunken into this like lazy habit. And I'm like, okay, I'll be like, all right, what's happening here? It's gonna check myself, right? So we're going to check it. And we're also going to start to, when we go back and to look at our routines, we're going to start to meal prep, plan, start to cook at home, learn how to make meals for ourselves. If we can make a large meal and then have some of it left over for multiple days, then it's easier to eat healthy. And again, less decision making than we have to do throughout the day, where we're not going to be like, fuck. That's usually when I eat it too, is when I'm like, fuck, when am I going to eat? I'm too hungry. Can't make a decision. Fuck it, I'm getting a pizza. That's like always my go-to. If I just like literally can't think or make a decision, I'm beyond the point, pizza. And that's fine like once a week or once a month, but if I'm doing it 3 times a week, 4 times a week, that's not the vibe, you know? So we're just gonna see, are we gaining weight? Are we feeling bad about it? Do we feel guilty? Do we start to have digestive problems after we eat it? And you can just tell it's like not nutritious. Like those are kind of the main factors, right? Not necessarily that you went out to eat. That's not the problem. It's what are we putting into our bodies and how much of it and how do we feel after and how was that ethically sourced and what was the process, you know? Then we've got binge watching TV. This might have gotten better after the pandemic isn't so bad, but I know everyone was like binge watching movies and Netflix. I know I was. And I just really try to nip that in the butt. And if I do watch TV, then I'm trying to focus it on documentaries, educational videos, tutorial videos, things that are going to expand my mind as much as possible. And then also recognizing when I'm burnt out and I'm just like, whoo, I hit a wall and today's a movie day. That's fine too, but it can't be every day, you know? And we have to pick and choose our battles and go, okay, I had a movie day yesterday. Maybe I'm not going to have one today. And again, checking ourselves. Why are we doing this? If we need a rest, that's fine. Maybe we are just need a distraction or celebration. All of them are reasonable, but just check yourself as to why you're doing it. And if you're doing it just because you're like zoning out and procrastinating and could be doing other things and you're just sort of doing that instead, then that's not the vibe. That's not the vibe. So some tips for that is setting a limit for like, okay, I'm done watching TV by 10 o'clock, or I'm done watching TV by 5 o'clock, or I don't start watching TV until noon or until 10 p.m. Whatever it is for you, pick a time, end a time. It's like, okay, that's my window. Maybe you're like, okay, 1 hour a day. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm watching a bunch of these documentaries and you know, I'm really deep diving into a subject like the Performer's Guide. Maybe you're watching a whole bunch of these videos, just setting aside a time for it, you know, and not just mindlessly watching TV whenever, wherever. Pick alternative activities. That's a big one. You know, read a book, go on a walk. What are some other things, especially if you're feeling burnt out and your go-to is television, what are some other things you can do instead of watching television? Maybe you could go do some yoga or stretch, or watch some Cirque du Soleil on YouTube or something that's gonna be sort of mindless, but still inspiring and still within your niche of performing, something that can kind of still keep you motivated and going is better. So the next one is doom scrolling. It doesn't even necessarily need to be doom scrolling. I think that's just the term for it, but just scrolling. I just mindlessly scrolling. And I'll notice myself like accidentally doing it where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in for a thing. And then I'm like, uh-oh, wait, what the hell am I doing? Stop that. And so if that happens once, you know, that's okay. Like we can go, oops. But if we think about it and then go, oh man, I should stop. And then you keep going. That's what I really consider the thoughtless scrolling, It's like one thing to accidentally be in the habit, and then, first couple times during the program, we might be like, oops, wait, I'm not doing that. Nip it in the butt. And then there's also consciously doing it. Maybe you're thinking, are there gigs somewhere? Maybe I want to find a gig. So you'll go into a group, you'll go into your feed and just sort of scroll with the specific mindset of finding inspiration, finding content. Again, set limits for it. Maybe it's 15 minutes. Like I've definitely noticed where I'm like, okay, I'm going to end in 15 minutes. And then the second it goes over, I like feel myself wanting to go. And I'm like, oh no, I'm addicted. Stop it. And like, okay, end that. So it's not that we don't ever want to scroll. There's value in our friends' posts. We want to stay connected. We want to learn things. There's stuff available. But are we just like stressfully, anxiety ridden, just scrolling, or are we scrolling with intent? So it's funny because I feel it's like a loop, right? We doom scroll because we have anxiety, but then the scrolling also in turn gives us anxiety because we're either not finding the thing that we're looking for, or we're finding a whole lot of the thing that we're looking for, which is negative news. And so if you're specifically going to news and finding negative news and just being like, oh my God, and like getting more stressed out and like going back and back, then it's going to become this cycle and you'll feel it. And then the same with feeling like you're going to solve some problem right now. And so you're like looking through for some solution for maybe like getting a gig or something. When instead of doing that, you could just be a beacon and like put out content, put out information, and then people will come to you. We tend to like try to like look through social media with a flashlight like it's going to solve some problem for us. And so really try to just figure out when you're doing either of those two things, as opposed to, oh, I want to go and connect with my friends and I have a purpose and I'm doing something. So the next one is video games. Video games. This is the same with the TV. It's fun to do it for a little while, but we got to set time limits. And so at the beginning of the program, which is now, you're going to pick a limit. How long are you allowing yourself to play a video game? Maybe it's an hour. Maybe it's a half an hour. Maybe it's none. That's fine. For me, it's 0. If I play 0 video games, then I get a point. But maybe you're like addicted to video games or like do it a lot. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to start to limit it before fully cutting it out. Then give yourself a time limit. Then don't go over that time limit. Yeah. And especially, there's 2 reasons why I'm personally morally against too many video games. Is one, because it's a time waster and we could be working on our personal development, but also it's a money waster. A lot of these games are now freemiums with subscriptions attached. You have to buy new things, or it's just a licensing agreement and you have to continually repay. You could be spending that money on something else. You could be spending it on props, on educational materials, on costumes, on something else. And it's like, okay, when is it just for fun and a little bit, and when is it an actual problem? And we want to figure that out. And that leads into the next one, which is gambling. These freemium games and these play to win games really start veering into gambling. And it's almost like there's like a sliding scale there of gambling. And then I was just in Las Vegas. I have clients in Las Vegas. I spend time in Las Vegas. It's very obvious to see the people who have just been sucked dry energetically, emotionally, financially, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, doing drugs. It's like literally the epitome of all of these things like combined. And so if you're going and performing in New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, these large cities that have a lot of opportunities for these negative habits, with no one really checking themselves, it can really go down a dark path. And so it's really important to stay grounded, stay focused, stay centered while we're in these facilities. And it's like, okay, if you like to play video games, if you like to gamble, give yourself a certain amount. And then if you lose that amount, then you're done. And if you win anything more, you take out the amount that you put in and then just play on the house's money. It's easier said than done. My mom was actually a professional gambler. She was a professional poker player. She flew all over the world gambling and being a professional gambler. And even as somebody who won trophies, won things, I still really struggled with it and the morality of gambling, because not in the gambler, but in the companies and the facilities that are orchestrating this, because it's always designed for the house to win. And while there is some people winning trophies, more people are in financial ruin because of it. And so we could be spending that money on something else. And then the last one is no negative self-talk. And so this one is a twofold. This is how we speak to ourselves. This is also how we speak to and about other people. Okay? So how do you describe yourself? In a positive way or in a negative way? Really start to tap into that. Like, the one classic one I always do is if I like anything happens, I'm always like, I'm a mess. And it's like, I'm not a mess. I'm actually pretty well put together. And so I don't need to say that about myself. They did a study of people talking about themselves versus other people, and they sort of like watched people over time and how they described. And overwhelmingly, people would describe other people better and then themselves less better. So check yourself. See how you're talking about yourself. And then also see how you're talking about other situations. So if something happens, being like, oh, well, that's just the way it is, or typical, try to change the framing of how things are happening. And it really does change the way we perceive our surroundings. And it gives us an opportunity to see things as an opportunity for growth as opposed to a challenge. Yeah. And then how we are speaking to other people. Are we just speaking really negatively to somebody, or are we speaking to them with kind words? And then how are we speaking about other people? I see this a lot. Talking shit in the green room, talking badly about another performer, talking badly about an agent or a producer or a guest. Check yourself. When are we doing that? Monitor it. Try to stop yourself and go, okay, wait. Do I need to say this? Like the classic, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And really monitor that. So those are the 9 no-no list activities. Again, they are no cigarettes, no alcohol, no drugs, no fast food, no binge watching TV, no doom scrolling, no video games, no gambling, and no negative self-talk or talking to others. So if you start to do this over the course of the 21 days, you will notice a difference. I had a New Year's resolution a few years ago that was it was stop complaining. And the premise is I could find a solution. Like if I'm really having a problem and I need to talk to someone, I'm like, oh my God, this just happened and I can't believe it and I'm having a really hard time. But then once the solution is found, I see so often people still going and talking about the same problem over and over to people. And it's like, wait, we just found a solution to that. Why are you still focusing on the problem? That's part of it as well. That's part of the no-no self-talking is complaining. Just needlessly complaining to other people about your situation with no regard for finding a solution. It's just like, ah, well, fucking this and that, and you know how it is, and shit's always going wrong. No. Nip it in the butt. Find solutions. Move on. And also limiting cursing. Oh my goodness. It is so unprofessional to be cursing at a gig in front of clients and just having like a really bad potty mouth. I used to be like fucking shit, like in between all of my words. And somebody called me out and they're like, wow, you have a really bad sailor's mouth. It was my version of saying and like. I didn't say that. I'd be like, fucking, what was I fucking saying? That's not professional. Nobody wants to hire that person in a professional capacity. Like if I was managing 100 people and talking to clients like that, they'd be like, so we're going to start to work on that over the course of this 21 days, is speaking positively, trying to think positively, recognizing when we are having issues, and working towards solutions. It's been a game changer for me to actively work on all these no-no lists, honestly. More so than the habits, if not equally. The habits obviously are very helpful, but the no-no ones, I actively noticed myself feeling better. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, on top of saving a lot of money. So we're going to focus on this week. Let me know in the comments below which no-no task is your one you're going to struggle with the most. I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.